58% of people said that they felt their own productivity had improved since hybrid working had increased. And 32% said it made no difference. So if you're an employer, that's fine, it makes no difference. And only 10%, or 9 point whatever, said that they felt that their productivity had declined as a result of hybrid working. 70% of respondents said the increase in hybrid working had improved what they regard as company culture. So that's a huge amount who say that their sense of getting on with their colleagues has improved since they're not seeing quite as much of them in person. And I think that might actually have something to do with it, right? So we don't see each other often face to face, and that's why we like each other.
Actually, the majority of people that I think are probably experiencing those feelings are actually men. Now, that is not to say it's a male-only thing at all, but I do think it hits everybody. It's young, it's old, it's older, it's younger. I think everybody always wants to be better than they are, which is great in many ways. We're ambitious. It's an industry full of ambition, which means we're always trying to do something that's slightly outside of our comfort zone. So I think it is quite prevalent in the events industry, and not necessarily more so than other industries, but it's definitely here. I think the latest stat I saw is something around 70% of people experience these type of feelings.
And then the host dropped out, and I remember it was me and another girl, and we kind of looked at each other when it happened, and I could just see her face. Like, she just wanted to melt into the chair, and she looked at me like... And I just had that massive grin, because I was like, great, I'm going to be able to embrace this new opportunity. And then it was absolutely dreadful. I looked back on the video and it was awful. And going back to kind of what we were saying earlier about that is how you grow. And it, I'm so glad that I did that when nobody knew my name, nobody knew who I was.
And there is plenty of this type of technology that you talk about that is analysing people in real time at an event and is allowing the organiser to make real time in-event decisions on all sorts of things. And I would kind of look at the positives here of that. Technology like that, take for instance what that can do for accessibility, for instance. So you might have a visually impaired person who can better attend an event because there is AI that is analysing the movement of people and crowds at that event, so that visually impaired person can take an easier route. You can have AI that can provide audio guidance through the event to that person by looking at where everything is and what's the best way to get there, real time in person, or in moment guidance. So yes, I think that there is some of that, and there's lots of technology like that being used at events even now, looking at sentiment analysis and. I think there are plenty of ways that will manifest that will be brilliant for events. Because of these efficiencies that AI can drive, we are just going to see a golden age of events, really, and we're going to see more and more of them. And so I think the opportunity for event professionals is huge, maybe bigger than it's ever been.
I was in Florence last week, which is one of the destinations that suffers from over-tourism, and I was there, and we were staying for a week. It was a leisure holiday, and we were staying in someone's Airbnb apartment, which belonged to someone who'd previously lived there, but then they moved out of Florence, and they were renting it out to us. And you kind of think, like, we were trudging around the streets, kind of, because it's so full. Like, the streets are small, obviously, in Florence. We're trudging around and kind of thinking, are we the problem here?
Somebody else is always the problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like when you're on a motorway, stuck in a huge traffic jam, you're sort of cursing at other people. You never think that you're the problem.
It's like, exactly. It's like, oh, I'm stuck in traffic. You're not stuck in traffic. You are traffic.
Who doesn't love talking about fashion?
Everyone loves talking about fashion.
Everyone loves talking about fashion, especially when you start the conversation or start the question with a compliment. Love what you're wearing. Tell us more about it. Yeah, so this year, me and Anna-Marie Trubinsky, who runs AMT Events and Styling, walked the show floor at the meeting show. And we just stopped delegates. We stopped people on the stands and just said, tell us about your conference style. Tell us about how you dress to feel confident. Tell us about where you shop. And people loved it. We didn't have one single person that said, oh no, I don't feel comfortable doing this. We even got a few 12s and it was fantastic. And
conference trainers. Everyone's wearing trainers these days.
What conference trainers are you referring to? Because I have seen some very snazzy branded conference trainers. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you just talking generally, like
Just
people
generally,
wearing?
people wearing trainers. When I started out in this industry, like more than a decade ago, people wouldn't wear trainers, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I started 5 years just before the 5 years ago, just before the pandemic, and it was very much you either wore little heels, or sort of like for women, flat pumps, something like that. But I think now, the spectrum of a smart shoe, of smart trainer, is so broad now.
And there's also a recruitment issue right now, I think. I think a lot of people have jobs on their books that they're recruiting for that are very skills-based, especially post-COVID. People are wanting a lot of digital skills because of the nature of virtual and hybrid events. And because we don't necessarily teach skills at university, we teach critical thinking, we teach about the wider industry, we teach about the context of events and tourism, that you'll be able to enter the industry at any point and pick up a job in logistics or in management. A lot of the skills like learning Slack or being able to understand how to, operate virtual events, being able to operate Cvent or any other kind of technical software, they're having to learn those on the job.
Should we be doing anything about the fact that it's kind of mainly women in the industry?
I love that it's mainly women. I think it's a fabulous industry. I love it. I love the girlies. The biggest challenge I find is that it's majority women, but the decision makers are mainly men. And that for me is the biggest challenge.
I think the IBTM report 2022 said, correct me if I'm wrong, 76.9% of women in our industry and 16% and there are only 16% of them in leadership positions at the top. So it's dominated by men at the top, definitely. There's a lot of decision makers who are men.
It's funny what you're saying about natural daylight, because we wouldn't expect our babies and our children to be in a dimly lit room for days on end. But us as event professionals, that's what we opt for, isn't it? And that's what we expect. So there's definitely a lesson to be learnt there.
Yeah, and actually, if you think in terms of, health of an adult, being cooped up all day with no natural light in air conditioning, it makes your skin dry. It makes you also, gives you a headache. And it can make you, quite fractious. So if you multiply that by about 10 for children, then you'll see where I'm coming from. The more synapses, the more connections, the more experiences that we give our children, the more the brain kind of whirs and connects and develops and grows. So actually taking your children to a conference, on a journey, on a plane, all of that is improving your child's brain. And so, there you go, as a holistic approach for the organisers. Organisers are actually making the world a better place because we're developing people with better skills who can see, travelling is how you notice and appreciate differences in people and accept differences in people. So there you go, it's world peace as well.
Well done.
This isn't about everybody going sober. This is about the fact that moderation has gone mainstream and people are still looking to go out. I think that's a really important thing, but they don't want to always drink, and they've got different tactics for doing that, and alcohol-free drinks really, really support them in that. Younger people are drinking less altogether, so 35% of 18 to 25-year-olds say that they're alcohol-free, but even then younger people drink less drinks in an evening, are more likely to be moderate because they've learned that alcohol and anxiety don't mix very well. Whereas I'm the ladette generation. We were taught that if you had anxiety, you should drink. But we're all going through menopause right now, so we're cutting down. And then if you add into that type 2 diabetes and general, definitely a post-COVID boost in people wanting to be healthier, then that's why this trend is emerging. And it's not just the UK, it's global, but I think the shift in the UK was far more noticeable than anywhere else. And a lot of brands launched here before they've launched anywhere else.